I walked into the bridal salon expecting a fitting. Instead, I walked into an ambush. My mother, Teresa, didn't even offer me a seat. She just looked at my hands, weathered from months filming in the Mojave, and wrinkled her nose. "We can't have you in the bridal party, Sierra," she said, as casually as ordering lunch. "Your aesthetic is too gritty." My sister Paige didn't even look up from her phone. "It's a branding issue," she added. "I don't want to pay the photographer extra to Photoshop you out of the family portraits. You understand?" "Right. Before I tell you what I did next, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. Have you ever been excluded from a family event for a reason that made absolutely no sense?" I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't beg them to reconsider or promise to wear long sleeves to cover my sun-damaged arms. I just looked at them, my mother, Teresa, inspecting her manicure, and my sister, Paige, refreshing her Instagram feed, and I felt a strange, cold clarity wash over me. It was like a fever breaking. For 28 years, I had been fighting for a seat at a table where I was only ever served scraps. Today, I was done starving. "I understand," I said. My voice was steady, void of the drama they were clearly hoping for. Teresa blinked, looking almost disappointed. She wanted a scene. She wanted me to yell so she could clutch her pearls and tell everyone how unstable I was. I didn't give her the ammunition. I just picked up my bag, the canvas one they hated, and walked out of the salon. The air inside smelled like expensive gardenias and desperation. And stepping onto the San Francisco sidewalk felt like surfacing from deep water. I took a breath, filled my lungs with the damp city air, and got into my truck. I sat there for a moment, the engine cold. My phone was in my hand. I opened my email. Just that morning, I had confirmed the order for a vintage watch for Hunter, Paige's fiancé. It was a 1960 timepiece, rare and understated. It had cost me nearly $4,000, money I had scraped together from my last documentary grant because I wanted to prove I could play their game. I wanted to buy my way into their respect. I looked at the order confirmation. Then, with a single, precise movement of my thumb, I hit cancel. A moment later, the notification popped up, order canceled, refund initiated. It was the most satisfying click of my life. That money wasn't a gift anymore. It was a budget. I dialed Caleb. He answered on the first ring, picking up on the frequency of my silence immediately. "They uninvited me," I said. No preamble. "They said I don't fit the brand." Caleb didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't offer hollow platitudes. He knew exactly what this meant. He just asked, "So, are we doing it?" I looked at the gray skyline, watching the fog roll over the city. "Book the flights," I said. "Santorini, the saffron dress, the high-end cinema gear, everything. We're not just eloping, Caleb. We're making a masterpiece." "Consider it done," he replied. "I'll pack the drones." Driving back to my warehouse in Oakland, I didn't turn on the radio. I needed the silence to process the shift in my reality. For so long, I had wondered why I tolerated it. Why did I let them treat me like an unpaid intern in my own family? I realized then that I had fallen into a subtle, dangerous trap. The normalization of deception. It's a psychological conditioning that happens slowly, over decades. My family had trained me to believe that their artificial world was the standard, and my reality was the defect. They had gaslit me into thinking that my authenticity was a flaw. For years. I edited Paige's influencer vlogs for free until 3 in the morning, color grading her life to look perfect, cutting out her tantrums, polishing her image until she glowed. I lent Teresa $15,000 2 years ago for business, cash flow that I later found out went directly to a cosmetic surgeon. I accepted the role of the useful servant because I thought if I served the brand well enough, eventually they'd let me wear the badge. But sitting in traffic on the Bay Bridge, I finally understood the mechanics of their cruelty. They didn't exclude me because I wasn't good enough. They excluded me because I was the only thing in their life that was real. My calloused hands, my wind-burned face, my refusal to pretend it all held up a mirror to their hollowness. And people who build their empires on lies will do anything to smash the mirror. I wasn't a daughter to them. I was a liability. And now, finally, I was a free agent. I drove through the industrial sprawl of Oakland. The silence in the cab, heavy with memories I had suppressed for years. My mind kept flipping back through the pages of an invisible ledger, a mental accounting of every time I had paid for my own humiliation. It wasn't just the money. Though the math was damning enough, it was the currency of my time, my dignity, and my self-worth that they had spent so freely. I remembered the summer after film school when I lived on my parents' couch in San Francisco. I was rent-free, they said. A generosity they reminded me of, daily. In exchange, I became the household manager. I scrubbed floors before their dinner parties, walked the dogs, and spent hours retouching family photos to remove imperfections, usually lines on my mother's face or the perceived flaws in my own silhouette. I was the live-in retoucher for their reality. Then there was the engagement dinner for Paige and Hunter. Just 3 months ago, it was held at a private club in Pacific Heights. The kind of place where the air conditioning smelled like old money. I had arrived straight from a shoot, wearing a simple black dress because I didn't have time to change into something on brand. I was standing near the bar, holding a glass of sparkling water. When Hunter approached me, he didn't look me in the eye. He just extended his empty glass toward me and tapped the rim. "Refill on the Pinot, please," he said, not even pausing his conversation with a venture capitalist next to him. I froze. My own future brother-in-law thought I was the help. I looked across the room at my parents. Douglas saw it happen. He was standing right there, nursing a scotch. He could have stepped in. He could have said, "Hunter, that's Sierra, Paige's sister." Instead, he just gave me a look, a sharp, warning glare that said, "Don't make a scene. Don't embarrass us." He leaned in and whispered to me, "Just get him the wine." "Sierra." He's stressed. I did it. God help me. I actually did it. I walked behind the bar, grabbed a bottle of Pinot Noir, and poured it for the man who was about to marry my sister. I faded into the background, wearing a metaphorical staff badge that I realized had been pinned to my chest since birth. They didn't see a daughter or a sister. They saw utility. They saw a resource to be exploited when convenient and hidden away when not. That night, I went home and transferred $5,000 to their joint account because Teresa had called me crying about a cash flow issue with the caterer. I later found out that money went to a deposit on a vintage Porsche rental for the engagement photos. The ledger was full. The debt was unpayable. For years. I told myself that if I just worked harder, if I just gave enough, I would eventually earn my way onto the guest list of their lives. I thought my utility was the price of admission to their love. But the bridal salon had finally made the terms of the contract clear. There was no admission price high enough. I wasn't waiting in line for a ticket. I was the one paving the parking lot. I pulled into the gravel lot of my converted warehouse. Caleb was already there, loading Pelican cases into his Jeep. He looked up, his face set in that calm, capable expression that always grounded me. He didn't ask what happened. He just pointed to the gear. "I packed the prime lenses," he said. "And the drone. We're not just going to Greece, Sierra. We're going to make them wish they'd never learned the word aesthetic." I looked at him, and for the first time in my life, I realized I didn't need to earn my place here. I didn't need to serve him wine or edit his life to be worthy of his time. "Let's go," I said. "I'm done serving." 2 days later, the sound of heels clicking against concrete echoed through my studio. I didn't need to look up from my editing bay to know who it was. The rhythmic, aggressive staccato was my mother's signature. Teresa stood in the doorway of my converted warehouse in Oakland, looking like a diamond dropped in a coal chute. She held a handkerchief over her nose, visibly recoiling from the smell of ozone and old timber that I loved. To her, this place was squalor. To me, it was the first place I'd ever been able to breathe. "We need to talk," she said, bypassing pleasantries. She walked to my workbench, pushing aside a stack of lens filters to slap a thick blue folder onto the surface. "What is this?" I asked, not reaching for it. "Insurance," she said. "For the wedding. Hunter's family is particular. They value privacy above all else. We're asking everyone to sign one." I opened the folder. It wasn't a guest book entry. It was a non-disclosure agreement. A dense, 5-page legal document drafted by a corporate law firm. I scanned the clauses. It didn't just cover the wedding date or location. It explicitly forbade the signatory from discussing family financial history, asset liquidity, or historical business dealings with any member of the groom's party. The penalty for violation was set at $500,000. I looked up at her. "You want me to sign an NDA to not talk to my own sister's in-laws? I'm not even invited." "Mom, how am I going to talk to them? We just need to be safe," she said, her eyes darting around the room, avoiding mine. "You're unpredictable, Sierra. You have that artistic temperament. If you get drunk and start telling stories about the old days, about the lean years, you could spook them." "Spook them," I laughed. A dry, humorless sound. "You're acting like this is a corporate acquisition, not a marriage." "It is a merger," she snapped. The silence that followed was deafening. She froze, realizing she'd said the quiet part out loud. Her mask slipped for a fraction of a second, revealing a terror I hadn't seen before. It wasn't just social anxiety. It was the panic of a woman walking a tightrope over a pit of vipers. "A marriage," she corrected quickly, her voice shrill. "A union of two powerful families. Look, just sign it. If you ruin this for your sister, if you cost us this connection, you are dead to us. Do you understand? No inheritance, no contact, nothing." I looked at the document. Then I looked at the woman who had given birth to me. She wasn't protecting Paige's happiness. She was protecting a lie. I didn't know what the lie was yet, but the weight of it was sitting in that blue folder. "Get out," I said. "Sierra, get out, and take your paperwork with you. I'm not signing anything." She grabbed the folder, her knuckles white. "You're making a mistake. You're going to regret crossing us." "I already regret knowing you," I replied. She stormed out, the clicking of her heels fading into the industrial hum of the neighborhood. I stood there for a long minute, my heart hammering a cold rhythm against my ribs. Merger! She had called it a merger. I turned to Caleb, who was standing in the shadows of the equipment cage, watching. We need to leave, I said. Now. Flights are booked for tomorrow, he said, his voice calm. But we can move them up. Do it. I don't want to be in the same time zone as them when that wedding happens. And Caleb, I pulled out my phone. Mute them. All of them. Mom. Dad. Paige. I don't want to see a single notification until we're back. We packed the gear with military precision. This wasn't a vacation anymore. It was a tactical extraction. We were smuggling our joy out of the country before they could confiscate it. By midnight, we were at SFO International. Watching the runway lights blur in the rain, I felt like a fugitive. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't running away from the truth. I was flying directly toward it. Santorini at dawn doesn't look real. It looks like a painting someone left out in the rain, blues bleeding into whites. The volcanic rock sharp and dark against the Aegean Sea. We woke up at 4 a.m, not because of nerves, but because we had a shot list. While Caleb calibrated the drone on the terrace of our cave house, I slipped the dress from its bag. It wasn't white or cream, it was saffron, a deep gold that looked like fire. I hadn't bought it to please anyone. I bought it to make a statement. I didn't want to look like a bride seeking approval. I wanted to look like survival. The silk was cool and unstructured, heavy in a way that felt honest. No corset. No shaping, just my body as it was. Sunburned. Calloused. Alive. Against the gold. I didn't look rough. I looked real. We hiked to the cliff ourselves. No staff. No planners. No protection from the wind. Santorini doesn't soften itself for anyone. We let the wind tear at us and stayed anyway. Caleb launched the drone. The hum mixed with the waves below. He watched me through the monitor. Not as a subject, but as part of the landscape, something true. Standing on the caldera. The guilt I'd carried for weeks finally vanished. I realized leaving my family wasn't betrayal. Biology is accidental. Family is chosen. Walking away wasn't revenge. It was survival. I hadn't escaped them to hurt them. I escaped a burning building. Caleb took my hands. Ready. Ready. Our vows weren't poetic. We promised honesty. We promised never to make each other smaller. We promised space for truth. The drone circled, capturing the gold dress against white stone and blue sea. It didn't look like a wedding. It looked like a beginning. We posted the reel that morning. No dialogue. Just wind. Laughter. And the ring catching on my knuckle. The caption read, "We built our own table." By noon, the internet had exploded. People didn't just congratulate us, they recognized themselves in it. What was raw and unseeing suddenly mattered. While my world expanded, my family's collapsed. I opened my sister's live stream. Aspen was in chaos. A blizzard tore through their curated perfection. Guests froze. Decor collapsed. $1 million wedding unraveled in real time. Then the call came. My parents weren't just struggling, they were insolvent. The wedding was financed with hidden loans and diverted funds. They needed the marriage to secure a bailout. They needed me silent. As my sister live-streamed crystal and champagne, she was unknowingly broadcasting evidence. Federal agents arrived. Assets were seized. The groom walked out without looking back. My mother called. begging me to fix it. I didn't. I couldn't. And for the first time, I didn't feel afraid. 6 months later, they await trial. My sister's rebrand failed. The internet remembers. I'm editing a series now. Picked up by a major platform. Looking at the legal clearance papers, I finally understood being excluded saved me. If they'd let me in, I'd be drowning with them. They thought they buried me. They didn't realize I was a seed. Sometimes being pushed out is protection. Sometimes building your own table is the only way to survive.